Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to do two easy mixed media cards using the Dreammaker collection. So I'm going to use the papers and stickers and stencils and stamps. Okay, so this is the stamp set. It's got lots of great paint splotches and I don't know, some writing and script and some really cool images. And then I'm going to use this piece of pattern paper and some of the foil stickers. Okay, so we'll go ahead and cut the zip strip off. This pattern paper on one side, it's sort of a floral with a paint wash with some writing faintly in the background. So I'm going to use this area of periwinkle. So I'm cutting that down to I'm going to make two slimline cards. I'm cutting that down to 3 1/4 by 8 1/4, which is a 1/4 inch smaller than a standard card, so I'll be able to leave a border. And then I'm cutting some white daisy because I'm going to be using some paste and some other wet mixed media products. And when you're using just pattern paper, you don't want it to buckle or wrinkle. So I want it to be extra strong. So I'm layering it up with some white daisy. So I've got a thicker layer to work with, and then I won't have to worry so much about it buckling. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in some Ranger opaque texture paste, and I'm also going to use some Nouveau drops, and this one is in ivory seashell, but you can also use some of the liquid pearls in opal. I just have this big bottle of Nouveau, so I'm going to try that. And my texture paste, it's a little thick and it's kind of drying out, but once I add the Nouveau to it, it's going to thin it out and it'll be just fine. So I'm just putting a little Nouveau drops in there, and I'm just going to mix it up really well. I'm using my all-purpose mat, so you can mix things on this and then it'll just wipe clean. So just add as much or as little as you want to give it kind of that opalescent, pearlescent look. It's a little hard to see on camera, but it really does change the texture paste and gives it a really cool look. Okay, so I'm just going to spread some out on my pattern paper here. So mixed media, there's a lot of imperfections to it, and just embrace that and just go with it. And I'm just kind of smoothing some out and adding a few areas on this pattern paper to give it a little extra texture and dimension. Okay, so now I'm going to use this leaf stencil from the Dreammaker collection, and I've already pre-treated it with some pixie spray to give it some tack so it'll stay put. And then I'm going to be extra sure and add some purple tape just to keep everything in place on my mat here. And I'm bringing in a blending brush and some periwinkle ink. I'm going to lightly blend into these openings and add some floral images to my card front. So you can go as dark or as light as you wish with the ink. I'm starting out really light, and then peel it off and see what you get, and move my stencil around. I'm going to use a couple different sizes of the leaves, and it's a little hard to see on camera, but it really is, it's darker in real life than what you see here. So just going in and blending some ink and just picking some random spots to place my leaves. And just move the stencil around and add some more. It's really whatever you like. I like to go in odd numbers, usually. Okay, now we're going to do some stamping. So I'm going to bring in the carrier, not the carrier sheet, but the foam backing for the stamp set to give it a little cushion when I stamp. And layer that underneath some scratch paper because I'm going to be stamping off the edges. First, though, I'm going to stamp my sentiment, and it says "Thankful for you." And if you see me use this stamp in a previous video, you know that I've done some surgery to it and cut the words apart so that I can load them onto my block in whatever way I want. The way it comes off the carrier sheet is a straight line, "Thankful for you," and I want it to stack my words, so I cut my stamp apart. So I have it set up on my block so I can stamp it the way I like, and I'm stamping that in sapphire ink. And then I'm going to bring in some Bluebird, and I'm going to do some second and third generation stamping. So this first stamp, it's a script stamp, so just ink up your stamp and stamp once off, and then stamp onto your project. So you see me turn the block, I'm bringing it up to my mouth to huff on it. You just, and your breath will re-moisten the ink, so then it's good to go, depending on how dark of an effect you want. So second gen for the script, and then I'm going to bring in this other, I don't know, paint splatter, sort of industrial looking stamp, and I'm doing third generation. So I'm stamping off twice, 1, 2, and then the third time onto my project. And again, I'm just randomly stamping around. Then I'm going to bring in some White Daisy pigment ink, and I'm going to do this floral, it's kind of dandelion sort of looking image. And I'm stamping those around, but they're kind of disappearing into that background. But we'll go ahead and stamp a few around. And then I'm going to bring in some periwinkle ink and stamp with that stamp again. So we'll get that cleaned up really well before we switch inks. Okay, so I'm going to bring in periwinkle and use that same stamp. And this time I'm going to go direct to the paper. And it's a little bit darker, so we'll just go ahead and scatter some of those around. And then to lighten it up and give it a little more dimension, I'm going to go back with the White Daisy and stamp almost directly over that original stamp image. And it kind of gives it a little bit of a three-dimensional effect. It's very subtle, but it lightens up the periwinkle and just gives it kind of a cool effect. Okay, so you're going to want to make sure that everything is completely dry so nothing smears on your card front. So hit it with that heat tool. The paste tends to dry pretty quickly, but you want to help it along with your heat tool and just make sure all your ink is dry sitting on top of that paste. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to matte this with sapphire or with Bluebird, and ultimately decided on Bluebird. So I cut that at 3.5 by 8.5, and I have a slimline card base. And we'll just go ahead and layer everything up with some Tombow. And first, before I add this pattern paper to my card front, I want to rough up those edges. So this is a really old Close to My Heart tool. It's an edge distresser, but you can use the edge of your scissors, razor blade if you're very careful, and or if you have another brand of edge distresser to just rough up the edges of the card front before you add it. And I just put that down with some Tombow. Okay, so these are some UV coated die cuts. These are from the Cardstock Carnival promotion that Close to My Heart had a couple months ago, and I got a big pack of all different colors, and there's all kinds of images. So I pulled some of the butterflies, and I pulled the lemonade and bluebird one, and I decided against the lagoon. And I'm just hitting each of the stickers. These are the gold foil stickers from Dreammaker, and I'm hitting them with my anti-static pouch to take away the stick from the back of them so that I can fold up the wings and then add them to layer on top of those UV coated butterflies with a couple of glue dots. So I'm going to layer those, and then each of the butterflies I'm going to add to my card front with some foam tape to give a little dimension and pop. I'm just folding the wings and just adding my glue dots to the center to layer those up. Okay, and then for the last step for this one, I have some of these jewels from Buttons Galore and More. If you don't have something like this, you can use the dots from Close to My Heart. The blue ones have some that are sort of between sapphire and bluebird that you could use. I'm just scattering a whole bunch around my card front. Okay, we're calling that done. All right, so here's some close-up shots. So mixed media, it's lots of fun to play with, just experiment with, and really you can't go wrong. Okay, so now I'm going to use the back side of the same piece of pattern paper, and I'm going to use this area that has mostly peach images. It's kind of some leaves down at the bottom and then some script in white, and use that area for my card front. And again, I'm just going to glue this to a piece of white daisy to strengthen it, and then we'll smooth everything out with a bone folder. Make sure it's nice and smooth and good to go. So that's cut at 3.25 by 8.25. So we'll be layering that on a piece of cardstock for a border. Okay, so I'm going to bring in the paste, scoop out a bit, and then I'm going to change this up by adding a bunch of different stuff. So first thing is, I wasn't sure which color of liquid pearls I wanted to use, but ultimately I went with the rose gold. And we'll mix that up really well. And wasn't completely satisfied with that color, so I'm going to bring in some Dream Drops from Nuvo, and these are called Love Potion. I'm going to mix those in. They kind of have an iridescent quality to them. And then I decided I wanted to add some glitter, so I'm going to bring in some pink taffeta stickles, and that will add a little glitter to the mix. Just for fun. Why not? Because we can. So I'm going to mix that up really well, and then we'll just do the same thing as we did on the other card and use that spatula and just add a couple areas to my card front. Now, don't let it scare you. It does look pretty dark on camera here, but in real life, it's once it's dry, it's lighter, and it just looks really cool. It gives some really cool texture and interest to the front of the card. So I'm just putting a couple areas on my card front, just randomly, and then clean up right away, because this stuff is like concrete if it dries, so don't let it dry on your tools, and wipe everything up. Then I'm going to bring some papaya ink in, trying out a couple of different colors in that color range, and decided on papaya. And I'm going to do the same thing and stamping down Thankful for You. And then I'm going to bring in melon and my stencil. So I'm going to do the same thing as before and just stencil some leaves with a blending brush. And some melon ink. So it's all random. I love using stencils, they're so fun. It's kind of magical when you pull a stencil away and you see the results. So all of these supplies, well, I'll list the Close to My Heart ones with links in the description below. Close to My Heart supplies are, the Dreammaker collection is available until the end of July. There will be, well, it's while supplies last, there will be some videos on the Close to My Heart page for the workshops. There's a scrapbooking, a card making, and a mini album workshop, and those will be at the beginning of July, so keep an eye out for those. And the supplies will be available until the end of July while supplies last. So I'm going to go in with Papaya ink and do the 2nd gen stamping with the script stamp, just like the first card. And then I'll go in with this other splatter stamp and do 3rd gen stamping. And just randomly. So once, twice, and then 3rd on your project. Once, twice, 3rd on your project. And with the other supplies that are not Close to My Heart branded, I'll also make a list in the description below with links so you can do a little shopping and find some of these same products. We'll go in 2nd gen with that, I don't know, dandelion floral image. And add a few of those. I'm going to skip the White Daisy pigment ink on this one. And instead, I'm going to bring in my splat box and I'm going to use some of this Fiery Sunset shimmer spray. And I'm just taking the spritzer out of the bottle and tapping it and splattering some of this color around. And then you'll want to hit everything with your heat tool, make sure everything's dry. Okay, so I'm going to bring in, that's the light side of Papaya. I was thinking maybe Desert Rose, decided on Papaya, and then you'll see once I start putting it into my trimmer, I changed my mind and decided to go with the dark side of Papaya. Okay, yeah, the dark side's going to work. So sometimes you don't know till you see it, right? So I'm going to cut that down to 3.5 by 8.5, and before I add my panel to the card front, I'm going to rough up those edges with that edge distressor. Just go at it and really rough up those edges. I'll add that. And then I've pulled some of these peach UV coated dies. I'll list, there's a thin cut set that has some leaves that are kind of similar to these. And you could cut your own with using peach cardstock. So I'll put a link to that set. I think it's the flower thin cuts. Anyway, I'll put a link below so you can get the same sort of cut. Or of course, there's lots of images available on Cricut. So I'm going to cluster some of those and add them with glue. And then on top of that, I'm going to add a heart sticker. And then I'm going to scatter some of these little heart UV coated die cuts around. You could also use peach or melon cardstock and then add some liquid glass to give that glossy look to them. And then for the last touch, I'm going to add some of these champagne glitter drops. They're from Pink Fresh Studios. And I'm going to scatter a whole bunch of those around. And if you don't have these, you could use some of the gold glitter gems from Close to My Heart. Okay, there's my finished card. So much fun. Lots of texture and interest. And here's some close-up shots. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And then be able to find all of my videos. And I just passed 400 videos, so there's lots to choose from in the library. And thanks for watching.